I feel like Victor's talks are always the most fun ones, so I hope I'm not like setting you up too much for that with that, but it's also lower a bit. But okay, it's one of the more serious one because we're just dealing with like ransomware and things. He's dealing with like hundreds of millions of dollars of fraud, and it's really important and sensitive, and people get really worried about it.
All right, thank you, Leo. Hi, everyone. So today I'm going to talk about skills and their skilling and the AGI future of the cryptocurrency investigation with Agentic.AI. And I put the first two lines there because Leo already sliding my title there. But I'm going to talk about two, there's a few very important aspects of the AI that we kind of, we feel like is, will be very interesting to share and to hear your feedback. Okay, so we're AnChain.AI. The name implies analyze blockchain with AI. So we're also the ISA Innovation Sandbox 2-3 years ago. So we are laser focusing on building AI into cryptocurrency investigation. And first of all, how is AI in 2026? I mean, stock is doing pretty well until very recently, but one of the things I heard is actually, will AI replace my job? And just a few weeks ago, I gave a talk at the ACFCS, is a Association of Certified Financial Crime Specialists. So me and John actually spoke to more than 1,000 risk analysts and all that, right? And this is actually, at least 5 people asked me this question at the end, right? So I think that people are concerned, right? And as you can already see what's going on with all these automations and all that. And that reminds me actually the Golden Gate breach told story that is actually, that happened 10 years ago, not far away from here. Okay, so how many of you actually back then have to stop by the Golden Gate to pay the toll? Raise your hand. Okay, well, OG, San Francisco. Until one day, I just drove by the Golden Gate. And this is AI generated. Raphael, that's AI generated, by the way. Yeah, I know, AI generated. No copyright issue. Good catch, Raphael. And so we have to actually stop by to pay the toll, the Golden Gate Bridge toll, okay? And my daughter actually asked me, Daddy, is that a good job? Because no matter what car you're driving, you have to stop and pay, okay? And I paused a moment and I was like, well, what kind of skill is required in that kind of job? What, counting money, giving the receipt? And after you spend like 10, 20, 30 years in there, what kind of skill you keep improving? Well, you can maybe process those pay tolls faster. Is that an important skill? Well, the answer reveals itself, right? After like just like 1 or 2 years, one day I just passed by the Golden Gate Bridge without even stopping. And it was like, what's going on? Oh, because Easy Pass now deployed. So it's a little interesting story, okay? And I will relate that to my, my following slides. The rise of AGI. So I think Professor Dao Song, right, my friend, actually have this very seminal paper that published a few months ago, the definition of AGI, artificial general intelligence, okay? So it's AGI, it's an AI that match or exceed cognitive versatility and of a well-educated adult. So what they do is basically they break down the knowledge into like 20, 30 different categories, right? You can see those common questions in here. And they also start benchmarking GPT-4 and 5 and all that, right? So I got a PhD in computer science, but honestly, a lot of those questions I cannot even answer. And that means AGI is actually setting a pretty high bar. Okay, and the third thing I found very interesting is the guardrail models versus unrestricted models, okay? We're the good guys, right? But this is the thing we're dealing with now, and especially with GPT 5.4. Actually, if you ask it to write a POC code for exploit, it no longer give you those, unless like I just asked Professor Dao Song, right? He said, well, you have to break down the questions and all that. Yeah, there's an entire art to that, to jailbreak it, right? But then on the opposite side, the bad guys are using great models and they fine-tune it or distill it like uncensored models, okay? And by the way, this is, I have to block it because it's not safe for work, as you can see, right? One is one of the top model by Alibaba. Guess what you can use it for, right? Anyway, so in our research recently, we look at all the different crypto fraud and crimes, right? So there's like billions of dollars, and being that the hackers are doing pretty well, and a lot of them actually were able to take advantage of all this AI. And I'm sure a lot of them are jailbreak LLMs, right, to write the codes and all that. They cannot just ask ChatGPT to provide those exploit code, okay? Okay, so now let's talk about the skills. And I actually did do a little bit of research into the job postings to see what kind of skills people are hiring for the SOC from tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, or the AML risk analyst is also tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, very similar setting, okay? And those are still active, okay? And also the Splunk, now it's part of Cisco, right? Have a very well defined job responsibility for tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And the way I summarize it is triage, that's tier 1, that's what they're doing. And investigate, that's tier 2. And then threat hunting, that's the tier 3. Okay? And if you start to really, like, and the AML side of it, the risk analysis is very similar, right? Triaging and investigate and threat hunt. Okay, so now let me show you some of the real, now we're getting to the more in-depth side of it. I know a lot of you are actually practitioners, so we're going to bring up one of the case that we are the primary investigator on. This is one of the major DeFi cryptocurrency hacks. And we work with the DOJs and the law enforcement on this, okay? And basically, this is what I'm going to show you. We use AI to do machine learning, right? Back then, since day one, to do all this investigation. But this is still now considered the old way of doing that. But still, I want to show you to set a little bit more context. Okay, so I'm going to show you. Let me see if the video. Solio, is that? Okay, so it's loading. So I'm going to show you. This is what we developed, the auto trace. So basically, you add the. Okay, so you put in a crypto address in there, right? Automatically, we can actually trace the money flow, right? Downstream, upstreams, and all that. Okay, and you can change layouts and all these different cool things, right? To investigate, right? And zoom in, zoom out, those cool things, right? And if you have a lot more graph nodes, I think graphics should be a better fit. But the one we're dealing with, we can handle probably like thousands to 10,000 in the browser, and then eventually you can turn it into a report. And if you're in the financial service industry, this is the one that if you trigger the SAR, the suspicious activity report, right? That's the one that we actually develop AI to help them file the report to the FinCEN. Okay, that's one. And then, I mean, it's not going to be that easy, right? As you can tell. So sometimes you will hit a roadblock, which is the smart contract, which is a piece of software operating decentralizedly on the blockchains. Okay, especially the EVM, the Ethereum blockchain, right? It's okay that you don't touch cryptocurrencies. Just consider it's like a JavaScript-like piece of code that you can run on a virtual machine. And I want to show you here also because investigation is not just one dimension. The one we're dealing with is not just the graph. And a lot of time, right, you have to get into the nitty details of, I have to open up this transaction and see what's going on in there. And this, again, this is one single transaction that we're able to unpack. This is what's happening in one single DeFi transaction. Basically, the hacker is doing something shady to exploit the money from this crypto address, okay? And I think this is actually a real example of that Kyber swap case, okay? And this hacker just managed to find vulnerabilities in that DeFi protocol, and we're able to drain like $65 million, okay? And we're working with the law enforcement and the clients to actually, we're able to rebuild this entire forensics and investigate this entire case. As you can see, there's a lot of data. It's not just the graph. It's also a lot of text and transaction data you have to go through. Okay, so now, those two examples is actually like, now you see, okay, the machine learning and GPT era of AI are doing. And now is really we're getting into a more exciting future, I would say, right? I think we are still at the beginning of this. It's how the agent skills and MCP will disrupt this entire field, okay? And I think all of you guys know about skills and MCP. I don't have to go deeper into that. But let me show you. This is actually, we are going to replicate the things that we just showed you in the previous 2 demo videos. And basically, now is we already have the agentic workflow set up, okay? So all you need is putting the prompt of, hey, let's investigate that transaction hash. And it's very interesting when you see how the agentic AI is actually taking all these different, the reasoning steps and start gathering all the data. It's funny to have the background music over here. And then also it's actually, in the past, this is actually a very manual process. As you can tell, there's a lot of tools you need to use. There's a lot of data transaction you have to go through. There's even source code you have to go and try to simulate to figure out how the hacker is doing that, okay? But now you're seeing that it's basically replicating what the human has done in the past. And a little bit spoiler alert. Can you guess how long did it take for us to partner with the law enforcement for that case? Take a guess. Months, exactly. And that probably would take, from our side, 2 full-time. And from their side, probably 2-3 full-times also, right? So you're talking about that resource in all these different tasks. And now it's like, and you can generate code also. It's like in some of the base 64 code encoded transaction, right? The AI agent were able to automatically figure it out and start building the Python to unpack those, okay? And of course, this would not be possible if we don't have the right AI native data and MCP infrastructure, okay? This is building on the foundation that we already established in the past 6-7 years, okay? But it's always fun to look at how the AI agent is actually cracking the real cases that happen. And boom, this is the one that we spend literally 2-3 months of couple full times on. Now we make it open up for free also. Thanks, Leo, for the motivation. And if you are interested in just play with it, you don't have to be a blockchain or a crypto expert to seeing the potential of this technology, okay? So how many of you are still following? Because, okay, awesome. I love that, 2 hands. All right, that counts as 2. And a lot of them, you probably have not even deal with cryptocurrencies and all that. But you know what? The malware and ransomware now are starting leveraging blockchain as their C tool, the command and control. And this is one of the real cases that we just find out. Actually, that C tool infrastructure on BNB testnet is still active, as we checked last week. So they are operating. And how many of you heard about this click fix malware? Basically, it's popping up a thing like this, and how to fix, you click, and what's happening is actually you copy a piece of code into your memory, and then they will ask you to, hey, now verify that step by pressing that. I mean, how many of you can know there are people from Microsoft here, right? What does it do, by the way, the last step? To prove that you are human. By open up Windows and R, Control V, and hit enter. And what happened? You execute the malware on your machine, okay? So be careful. And by the way, they host that the malicious code, the middle one, right? It's on the blockchain infrastructure. And the cost I already mentioned, right? Per investigation, right? 2 full-time, 2 months, and that's probably like $70,000 or whatever. And the AI agent, for that example I just showed you, less than 1 million tokens, and with some cost of the AnChain.AI MCP and 10 minutes to run, and we still have to put a human in the loop to validate the results And I want to explain why that is very important. So the total cost is less than 1K, and guess what? The 8 hours of human validation is like the majority of this. But then also, I put the slides here because the token pricing it's always gonna go down, okay? And so don't bet against the LLM. This is the reason. Who said that, by the way? It's like Elon Musk or Sam Altman said that. Okay, so now go back to this also this concerning topic, right? De-skilling. How many of you in the room have to hunt for food? Raise your hand. No, right? And how many of you have growing your own vegetables, by the way? Oh, just 1 out of 100, okay. Guess what? Like, we are all already in the process of de-scaling in the past thousands of years, okay? And what's the definition, right? There's actually a Springer Nature Link article came in, and a lot of people, researchers also studying this, right? How is AI is actually eroding your human cognitive creativities and even critical thinking, because now you are probably becoming more and more relying on the AI. Okay, there's a word for that, de-skilling. Okay, and it could be very expensive, de-skilling. And there's another Nature article come out, right, a few years ago, right? So they research like the human, and then now a lot of people are talking about using AI to augment the human capability, right? Especially I say the entire expo hall, probably 80% of companies are talking about that. So have you figured, well, if the AI is correct, that is this bar, right? If the AI is confidently give you the wrong answer, and that turns out to be 6 times worse, okay, when working with the wrong recommendation. And for more details, refer to that Nature article, but I think it actually speaks to itself a lot, like over-reliance on the AI could be costly. And now go back to the table, right? Hope you still remember, right? So we break it down into those 3, tier 1 to tier 2, tier 3, right? My prediction really, by looking at all this usage behaviors and all that, I think the tier 1, right? It's those people, the skills are highly replaceable by the AI, okay? And my guess is more than 90%. And the middle one, right? It's the investigations and all that. That require more advanced analytical skills into diving deeper into that, right? Again, you are not totally safe. I would say, I already showed you the example, the AI agent that we developed for investigation. I would say AI assisted in a very friendly way, but I would say 70% will be impacted. Threat hunting. How many of you actually have to hunt for threats? Raise your hand. Malwares and everything. Great. I think we are safe for now. For now. Okay. And I presented this last year in the same spot here, right? So I break it down into the known unknown matrix, right? So, and the known is you already know what's going on there, right? So, and the unknown, that's like the Wild West. You have to just use an R to do that, right? And the off diagonal will be interesting. And map it back to those 3 tiers I just mentioned. Again, this is just my theory, okay? Could be wrong. I definitely want to hear your feedback on this. I would say tier 1, that's known, right? You know this alert being triggered for some reason. Your system already detected that. Now your job is to triage it. It's known. You already know that, and it's already a fact. And the threat hunting, the unknown, that's the threat hunting. You are hunting down new threats, okay? That I would say the humans still like significantly better than AI. The off diagonal, I would say more investigate. You have to answer, like for example, known, unknown, or the unknown knowns, okay? You have to spend a lot of effort to figure out what's going on in those transactions. And what do you think? I want to hear your feedback because this is, I think I come up with this. I want to, do you guys agree or disagree? Or is it? You agree? Okay, only one. Wow, that's sad. Okay, so but think about it, right? Let me know your thoughts. Okay, and now let's talk about the AGI future. And I want to see. Okay, how many of you here last year when I presented this? Cheese not sticking to pizza? Okay. That was actually my favorite example when I explained the AI hallucination. It's a real example. Google Gemini gave this recommendation that, hey, you should use glue to stick your cheese to the pizza. And it turns out that it was Google hallucinating because there was like a 10-year-old Reddit post. There was a guy putting that in there saying that you should use glue to stick the cheese to the pizza. Real story. Okay, I think that's the best example I can think about to explain AI hallucination. Okay, so, and don't worry, human, the AI has its limitations. Actually, at least three. One is hallucination, okay? And the second one, which is actually when you deploy your product into the production, you're gonna suffer that actually a lot, the inconsistency. Have you guys tried to run multiple times, the same prompt, same parameters, and even the temperature set to 0, and the AI occasionally will give you different answers when you have a very complicated prompt? See that all the time, okay? Inconsistency. And the guardrail. So, like I said, that's their company putting guardrails to limit your use cases to be towards the legitimate way, right? But that become a limitation of the AI, especially in our field, in cybersecurity. And in my opinion, right, so the top skills that still require in the AGI era, the first one is critical thinking. Don't give up that. Don't have to trust whatever the AI give you. And grill it. And now the reasoning capability is great. So like the Cisco, that researcher talk about the reasoning model. I think that's actually the right direction for making sure the AI is moving to the right logical thinking process and all that. And you should still be able to review it and grill it. And hallucination detector or bullshit detector, okay? So, and that becomes a actually very interesting skill. So that example, that pizza example last year, right? I actually also used a results coming out from the ChatGPT explaining that smart contract, what does that do? It's BS. But the problem is that we know it because I'm the vertical expert in that. I know that it's BS in me. But a lot of people may be fooled, okay? So hallucination detector and evidence building. So for a lot of the financial and like cybersecurity, those applications, actually by law, by the regulators and all that, actually you cannot submit an automatic generated report without have a human put a proof of stamp on it. And then the last one I found would be an interesting skill is we'll be able to manage agents and consider agent is a group of interns, okay? They're junior, but they can do a lot, they do pretty well when you have a well-defined task. So, all right on time, that's amazing. And okay, quick announcement. So I'm writing a book on the Agentic AI and cryptocurrency investigation with Agentic AI. And really appreciate Willie reach out to me to author this book. So it's probably gonna come out in Q3 of this year. But if you guys are interested in reviewing, let me know. There's my email. Yeah, and you might get a free book or something better. So cool, awesome. I already have one sign up. Cool, Leo. All right, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Okay, cool. I open up for any questions. Thank you.
Ted, by the way, I would chase you down.
Oh, Ted, okay, hey, yeah, we need to talk, yeah. Sure. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, no, it's good to be here. So curious how, with the investigation tool, how you kind of solve for like the attribution or labeling problem through AI, or if you don't, if you kind of like plug in to those databases. Yeah.
Great question. The short answer is, like I just implied, it's we build our system on top of the foundation we already have. And in the past, we already have those machine learning labeling, right? So that was actually, one of those, right? As you can see, we have a machine learning model to try our best to put a tag on all these billions of addresses. And right now, we do not feedback and try to fill those labels. We build on top of it. But our strategy right now is actually by partnering with great company like you guys and all that, right? So we can put more labels. But we try our best to do our labeling on the blockchain layer. But I think the future is probably we should de-skilling ourselves and then trust like more high quality intelligence feeds. Could be wrong, but that's an easier engineering problem. And then I will make the slides available for you. And then just follow my linking, reach out to me on the linking and all that. And drop me an email. So yeah, cool. Cool, thank you.